Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to another Sims 4 speedbuilding video, or welcome to the channel if you are new here. So in today's video I'm going to be building in the world of Newcrest, which is one of the base game worlds, and I'm going to be building a huge family mansion. So I don't even know where to start with this voiceover because there is so much going on in this house, and I feel like I say that quite often. But honestly, there is. I've had to write up a whole Google Doc on my other monitor so I don't forget anything that's going on the inside of this house, because there is so much. It is one of the biggest houses that I've done, and it was so fun doing it, so I really hope you guys like it. It has 5 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms on the upstairs portion of the house, but then there is also a basement in this house as well, and that has a butler's room and then also a butler's bathroom. So technically 6 bedrooms and 6 bathrooms. There is also a wine cellar in the basement, and then kind of like I tried to make like a gentleman's club kind of card room, you know, your Sims can go in there, play cards with each other. There's a wine cellar and like a little bar so you can hire a bartender. There is also a money vault in the basement, which is an object which I feel like I never use, but there's one in the basement. I did put some money in it, but I was cautious of how much money to put in it because I didn't know if it would actually add value to the price of this house. So I ended up putting 50,000 simoleons, which doesn't sound like a lot, but originally I put 1 million, and then I thought probably a bit too much. So, but there is also a money vault in the basement, and then on the outside there is a basketball court that ends up being a triple garage which has a gym inside. There is also a pool house for the pool area, you know, it's got a bar in there as well. Your Sims, when they invite their mates around and they want to go and hang out in the pool, they can get changed in there. And then there is also a greenhouse, but it's not really a greenhouse because it hasn't got a glass roof, but it's got windows all over it. You'll see it as we get on into the video, but that is just a summary of what's going on the inside of this house. There is so much. It took me so long to build this. I started building this on Sunday and I finished it last night. So, I mean, it was a very big build. I had a lot of footage, so hopefully you guys don't mind that it's quite a long video. I say this, I feel like the majority of my videos are at least half hour long at this point, but without the screenshots, in case you're curious, it is 45 minutes long. So, highly recommend that you grab a snack or just something to drink or something, because, yeah, it's a big one. But anyway, getting on and talking about the process of this build, as you can see, the main structure of it came together fairly quickly. Now the thing is, I was looking at a picture, but I've gone since back onto the picture, it looks nothing like it. I'll find the picture and I'll pop it up on the screen now just so you can have kind of like an idea of what inspired me to start this build off. I don't think there's really any similarities in the end. I kind of went off the structure and then just kind of did my own thing and made it find its own way, and then it just came together quite naturally. I think something that probably helped the building process for this one is where I'm building this house for my save file, which, by the way, this house is going to be for my save file. I feel honestly like I could record myself at this point and just include this short audio clip into pretty much every single one of my videos, because pretty much every single week I build for my save file anyway. But if you've been here a while, you know the gist. It's going to be for my save file. I have got a story in mind of the family that's going to live here in my save. And do you know, it's actually becoming a little bit of an issue for me, because the thing is, I spend so long building these houses for my save file, and then the storyline just kind of like brews in my mind and I get really excited to play it, and then I feel really bad for my current household because I haven't played them in a while, because I just keep on getting inspired by different storylines for different houses that I build, and it's becoming a bit of an issue for me in my own personal gameplay. But this house is going to be for my save file, so I have got a storyline in mind, but I'll talk about that in just a second. But where I was building this for my save file, I've already got a house in this area of Newcrest for my save, and I want all the houses in the same neighbourhoods to look not the same, but I want them to have similarities. So for this one, I basically tried to use the same wallpaper that I've used in the other build that I've got in this world, or in this neighbourhood for my save file. Does that make sense? I tried to use like a similar kind of roof pattern, similar windows, but then if you actually look at the two houses, they look completely different from one another. The only one thing that they really share is the colour scheme. But this combination of the wallpapers and the exterior, probably my favourite combination ever. I do it all the time, if I'm being honest with you, but I can't help myself. You build what you like, and I just really like it. It ends up just being base game wallpapers. So it's like a base game sliding, a base game brick, and then there's also another base game brick as well, which is in the brown. It's honestly just such a classic and almost like a staple to me now. I love building it like this. And then another thing that I feel like is quite a staple to this house is the industrial loft kit windows. Now you can see on the exterior, I've tried to do 2 towers. I say 2 towers. they're basically the same room, but it just goes from the front of the house to the back of the house. You see in the middle where I've got them really big windows, it goes all the way up to the roof. I wanted it to make it look like it was one big window. I did play around with the tool mod, and I made the window on the top, you know, the industrial loft kit one, I made that a tiny bit bigger because something that really annoys me, and I don't know why they did it, we have matching windows to go along with the industrial loft kit circular one. Well, not circular, but do you know what I mean? At the top is circular. But we also have some windows from the Moschino pack, but when you put them one on top of another, they're a few inches out, and it really annoys me. And so what you can do is you can use the tool mod and you can scale it, and I scale them up by 1.1, just so then when you're looking at it, there's not like that gap either side. Hopefully, you know what I mean. Hopefully you follow along with me. But also on the subject of the tool mod, in case you're wondering, because I've been getting quite a lot of comments about this recently, I use two mods whenever I do my speed builds. I use the Better Build By mod and the tool mod, both by Twisted Mexi, and I have their website linked consistently in my description box if you want to go ahead and grab them. I use the mods to help me build, but they're not required. I feel like a broken record because I say this quite often, but I still get comments about it. I use the use the mods to help me build and, you know, like elevate things up, scale things up, and, you know, move things about a bit, but they're not required. So everything that you see on screen is exactly how it's going to look if you download the build off the gallery. You don't need any mods, you don't need any CC, it will transfer over. You know the window situation, how I made it a tiny bit bigger, that will still transfer over. Basically what I'm trying to say, you don't need mods to download this build. If you're a console player or if you're someone that likes to play vanilla and you don't play with mods in your game, you can still download it and it will look the exact same. It's actually really handy that that happens, like, because imagine if, honestly, Twisted Mex is doing the God's work, I'll tell you that one for free. But yeah, you don't need the mods to download this build, in case you're wondering. But anyway, getting on and talking about what I'm doing right now. So as you can see, I'm just playing around with terrain manipulation. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, because I'd probably think the same thing if I was watching this. I know, and I'm very much fully aware that there is a massive hill at the back of this lot, and currently it looks horrendous, I know, but don't worry, I do fix it. So basically, when it came around to doing the landscaping for this build, I know it's going to sound really weird, right, but stick with me. I wanted the landscaping to kind of be like a layered tiered cake. So you know, traditionally with some wedding cakes you have like the 3 tiers. I basically wanted the landscaping to be like that. I don't know why, but I'm really happy that I decided that I wanted it to look like that, because I actually really love the way it ends up coming together, the landscaping. But basically with that, I have to use quite a lot of terrain manipulation. But with that, at the back a lot, it looks dreadful at the minute. But trust me when I say I cover it up, you wouldn't even know it's there. I basically end up getting some bushes, and then again using the tool mod to size them up and to move them in, and it seems seamless. I know at the minute it looks really bad, and it looks like I've just done it and then left it and forgotten about it. I'm fully aware that the back of the lot isn't looking its best right now, but don't worry, I do fix it. Currently you can see that I've just come back to the front of the lot, and I'm just sorting out this kind of the tiered level of the landscaping. So something that really helped me try and get that wedding cake effect. It sounds really weird saying that, but do you know what I mean? With like a wedding cake, where it's got the 3 different levels. Something that really helped me was using these walls from the live edit menu. The ones that I've used are from Cottage Living, and basically what I did is I pulled out a bunch of them. I sized them down, because originally when you put them out, they're huge. So I used the tool mod and I sized them right down and basically merged in a bunch of them together to make it look like one kind of like curvy wall. And then I basically duplicated it and then made it lower, so then, you know, the tier kind of system starts to coming into play. And then there's also one last tier, so you can see that I've used the same wall, and then with the help of terrain manipulation, it looks like a wedding cake. I mean, if I was about to say if you squint, but even if you squint, it's just a very green wedding cake. But I tried to make it feel like it was layered like a wedding cake. I know it sounds really weird, but I love this. I love the way that I landscape this build. I had so much fun landscaping. I say this all the time. Landscaping is one of my favourite things to do when I'm building. But I do want to mention that when it came around to the footage of this video, I had so much of it. So I kept in probably around about 80% of the landscaping. The 20% I did decide to cut out, just because, you know, the other side of the build, so, you know, currently if you're looking at it straight on, we're focusing on the left hand side. On the right hand side, it's pretty much the exact same, but I just didn't want the video to be really repetitive. And I was about to say I didn't want it to be very long, but I mean, it's a 45-minute video at the end of the day. It's quite long anyway, but I just felt like it would be really repetitive, so I cut out some small areas of landscaping, but for the majority I kept in enough. So hopefully if you want to try and replicate this yourself and, you know, like kind of get inspiration from it, you've kind of got like a gist of how I did it. But anyway, moving on from that, I'm finally getting on and talking about the Sims that are going to be living in this house for my save file. So the Sims consist of 5 different household members. There is going to be a mum, a dad, a teenage girl, and then 2 teenage boys. Now that's how I decorated the rooms as well. There isn't going to be any children's rooms or any toddler rooms, although there is a spare guest bedroom in this house. If you want to make that into, you know, like a toddler's room or another child's room, you can definitely do that. But I decorated them to be so each teenager has their own room, and then the parents have their own room, and then there's also like a guest bedroom and then a butler's bedroom as well, or like a butler's quarters in the basement. I felt kind of bad putting the butler in the basement, but there was nowhere else really to put them, and I wanted to make sure that there was somewhere in this house for a butler, because the storyline for this household is this family are going to be very high profile celebrities. So starting off with the storyline for the dad, because the dad is kind of the main character in my storyline. It's kind of like how I developed the rest of the storyline. I kind of figured out what the dad was going to be and the dad's hobbies and, you know, like career path, and then the rest of it just kind of flowed from that. So the dad in this house of my save file, the dad that's going to be living in this house in my save file is going to be a retired basketball player. Now when I was building this, for some reason I was thinking of, you know, the Beckhams, David and Victoria Beckham, ex-Spice Girl, ex-football player. For some reason I was thinking about them when I was building this. It's probably because their eldest son, I think it was their eldest son anyway, got married like last week or something. But I just, for some reason, their storyline was in my head, and I thought it would be really interesting to have a storyline kind of like that. Don't get me wrong, David and Victoria, there's not going to be any Spice Girls in my save file, although that would be actually a really good idea. I do love the Spice Girls. I saw them live once at Wembley, and I'm not joking, probably one of the best nights of my life. But I was basically imagining their kind of situation and their storyline and their family, and I tried to kind of base this storyline off them. So in The Sims 4, we don't have a soccer goal, which I know is a weird thing to point out, but basically David Beckham is a retired footballer. But I didn't want to have a retired footballer in my save file if we don't have the proper football items, you know, like a football goal. We have the individual items, so your Sims can, you know, like play kicky ups with a football, but there isn't anywhere for them to score a goal. But with the City Living expansion pack, we do have a basketball court and like basketball items, and so I decided to make it so the dad is going to be a retired but still very famous basketball player, because I feel like that makes sense as well. Why else would you have such a big, I mean, to be fair, it is a mansion and there is the space for it, but I just felt like it just went hand in hand really nicely. And so the dad in this household is going to be a retired basketball player. I imagine, you know, with football there's something called, I think it's called Match of the Day. Now please, if you're someone that loves football, I'm sorry if it's not called that, but I'm pretty sure there's something called Match of the Day where a bunch of older, like retired football players will come and discuss, you know, like team tactics and what, I don't know, I've never really watched it, I've only ever seen it in the background of a TV. But you know, with like Match of the Day or them sporting events when you have ex-professionals kind of narrate the team strategy, and to be honest, I don't know what they talk about because I don't listen to it, but I imagine that the dad of this household is someone that still is very active within basketball. So every single time that there's a game on, every single time, you know, like there's a big stadium game, they'll go to like the city of San Moschino and they'll sit in a conference room and they'll be live on TV, you know, talking about their strategy. And I don't know football and I don't know basketball, but I imagine that, but you know, like Gary Lineker, if anyone know, you know, the guy that does the Walkers adverts, like him basically. I was basically imagining that the dad of the household would be someone like that. Even though they don't actively still play basketball, they've kind of like had their time of day, they're still very active within basketball, if that makes sense. But then moving on to the mum, now I was imagining the mum of this household was going to be an ex-fashion model. I still imagine that they probably still model a little bit, but not as much as what they did in their prime. So I was imagining, you know, with the stuff pack of Sims 4 Mosquito, you have the fashion career, so your Sims can basically become a fashion photographer. I was imagining that when your Sims would want to do that, they would hire the mum of this household, or at least in their prime, she would be hired to be on the cover of magazines, you know, she's on billboards. I imagine her to be a very popular model. I feel like since she's had her children, she's not as active in modelling. I feel like she might do a few like fan meet and greets here and there, or maybe chuck a few charity balls, because if you wasn't aware, with the Get Famous expansion pack, there is different events that your Sims can host. One of them being like a fan meet and greet. Maybe it's just my personal gameplay, but no fans ever seem to show up when my Sims host them. But there is also a charity ball system, or like a charity event. Your Sims can host an event and they can raise money for a cause. honestly, it's been a while since I've played with celebrities, but I remember that being a thing that I was playing with when that expansion pack first came out. But I don't imagine like in this day and age she's going to be booked Monday to Friday. You know, she's not a Gigi Hadid or a Kendall Jenner. She's just kind of, she's had her children, she's done her bit, and nowadays you could probably catch her by the swimming pool in a bikini drinking a margarita. I also imagine that she's going to be a member of one of the clubs. Now, I've said this before in my save file, in some of my previous videos for my save file, but with the club system that we've got from Get Together, I want to make as much use of it as possible in my save. There is going to be a club for pretty much everything that you can think of, and I imagine that she's going to be a member of the club, or possibly even the leader of a club for other celebrities, or maybe just other kind of like wealthy women that spend their days by the pool, reading books, going shopping. You know, you kind of get that gist, that kind of lifestyle. I imagine that is her to a T nowadays. Now, getting on and talking about the teenagers, so starting off with the teenage boys, I imagine that both of the teenage boys have some kind of pressure on them to be as good an athlete as what their dad is. I feel like we've all seen the films from like the year 2000 where maybe like a dad wanted to live out their dream as a basketball player but could never make it, and there's always a lot of pressure on the son. I basically imagine that kind of scenario, but instead of the dad didn't make it, the dad made it and made it quite well. Now there's just a lot of pressure on the children to do as well as them. Maybe, this is the thing, so I was thinking where there's two teenage boys, I was thinking that one is going to be very much for basketball, you know, live and breathe for basketball. You can always find them in the basketball court in this house. Whereas I feel like the other one, I was thinking that could possibly be twins. I was thinking that the other one likes basketball and enjoys fitness, but it's just not, they would rather do esports. Now I'm only saying this because the way that I decorated their bedrooms, I tried to replicate that. So with one of the teenagers, I gave them like this massive computer PC setup with a few monitors and, you know, all these fancy gaming things. But then the other one, I kind of kept it minimal because I imagine that they spend a lot of time either in the gym in this household or on the basketball court. And I imagine that maybe it's got a bit of tension between the dad and one of the sons. I mean, I just kind of like that storyline because you got one kid that's, you know, really trying to pursue a career and there's a lot of pressure on them to do as well as what their dad did. But then on the other token, you've got the other one that wants to play sports, but digital sports, like esports, EA sports or something, rather than, you know, actual sports. That was the kind of storyline that I had for the two teenage boys. And then the last person or last sim in this household is going to be the teenage girl. Now, to be honest, I didn't really have that much of a storyline in mind for them because the storyline kind of focused on the dad and then kind of like the sons. So I was just kind of imagining a really popular young teenage girl. You know, we've all seen the films, we've all seen the Regina Georges, kind of like that. She might be a bit like a Regina George, she might not be a very nice sim, who knows. I haven't really decided if she's going to be nice or not, but all I wanted to make sure is in their bedroom, you know, they get together wardrobes where your sims can like try on outfits and stuff. All of the children are also going to be in their own respected, you know, like club gatherings from the Get Together system. I imagine that they're going to be in one, and their club kind of hobbies is trying on outfits. And so in their bedroom, I made it a key necessity to make sure to have one of them wardrobes, so that can be one of the club club hobbies that they do. I also imagine that they're probably quite close with the mum of the household, and you could probably find them sitting around by the pool together. You know, that was just kind of like the idea that I had. And then there's also a butler in this house. And I know most people probably wouldn't mention that. But the thing is, I'm always stuck with butlers because sometimes, and I only found this out recently, did you know, apparently in The Sims 4 we have good butlers and bad butlers. I just thought they were all dreadful because in my experience, I've never had a good butler that actually does what I want them to do. To be honest with you, it's probably half the reason why I don't play with them that often, because say if my Sim's going to bed, so you know when you want to get your Sims to go to sleep, and if the rest of the household is asleep, the time goes really quick, but if someone's awake, it can only go to the 3 speed. Do you know what I mean? Well, my experience with butlers, my whole entire household will be asleep and then the butler will be awake, partying, doing whatever they want to do. Normally they're just wiping a surface or something to see if it's messy or not, and half the time I don't even end up cleaning it if it is. But then when my Sims wake up, then the butlers go to bed. Is this maybe just is this a glitch that I've just had, or is anyone else experienced that? But this is the thing, when it comes to butlers, I'm always stuck because that really annoys me with their gameplay. And so before, I've had households where instead of actually hiring a butler and then just having them so they're like an NPC, I'll hire a butler and then just add them to the household. And then, you know, with like cheating your Sim's needs, basically there's a cheat where if you click on your Sim, you can basically get it so their needs never decay. So they're always, you know, like they always are hungry. No, they're always not hungry. They're always like super energetic and whatnot. So basically, like, they mimic a butler. I don't know whether to include the butler within the household and just make them like that, or if I should just hire a butler and just hope that they're a good one. Either way, there's a butler in this household. I imagine that they've been the butler for this household for quite a while. Because the family is so high profile, I imagine that they only trust a certain small group of people. And I imagine that the butlers probably watch the kids grow up, and, you know, that was just kind of like the idea that I had for the storyline for the Sims that are going to be living in this house. I want to play with it. I really want to play with it. I feel really bad for my current household because I haven't played them in a while because I've just been playing through other storylines for other builds that I've done previously. But anyway, getting on. As you can see, I've now moved on and I've started furnishing this house, and I've started off with the pool house. So the pool house is pretty much just a little room on the outside. It's somewhere where your Sims can hire a bartender, and I imagine that they can also get changed into their swimwear. You see over here, I'm just playing around with some move objects. I wanted there to be like extra towels and then someone's backpack and their shoes. You know, they've just taken it off. They're going to go and swim in the pool. I also do want to mention the absolute sheer panic that went through my body, right? So basically, as always, I want to mention this now, the whole entire house has been play tested. Everything, once you download it off the gallery, will work absolutely fine. You're not going to run into any problems. I am very thorough when it comes around to playtesting my builds, and you know what? It's a good job that I'm so thorough with testing them that I normally test things that I know are completely usable, but I just test it just for the kind of like the safeness in my mind to know that it is definitely working. Well, basically, that came into effect with the swimming pool. So you know the swimming pool, we have a swimming pool, we have a few like sun lounges and whatnot. You would look at it and you'd be like, yeah, that's usable. Why would that not be usable? Well, I came around to playtesting it, and like always, very thorough. I get my Sim to go and literally, I get my Sim to sit on every single seat. Like I just because for like my peace of mind, when I say everything works and everything's been playtested, I know that I know that within myself. That is a very true statement. And so when it came round to getting my Sim to go into the pool, I tried to get them to swim here. It looks like it should work. And honestly, the sheer panic that went through my mind. So for some reason, my Sim couldn't get in the pool, and it was honestly driving me round the bend, and I couldn't figure it out for the longest time. And the panic and the fear on my face because I'd just finished the build. I came around to playtesting it, and one of the main features in the back garden, the swimming pool, doesn't even work. I've since now fixed it, but honestly, it was such a scary time because I felt like an imposter because I'd built this massive, huge mansion with a massive swimming pool and it didn't even work. Do you know what it ended up being? And it's a really weird thing, and I'm gonna bear this in mind for future builds anyway, but you know how the majority of the back garden I did on terrain manipulation and it's kind of like on a hill? Well, basically I just made the swimming pool and just plonked it on into the hill as you would a regular back garden, but for some reason the game doesn't like that, and because it was in a hill, even though it didn't, everything was snapping to it fine, you know, like the pool ladder was fine, the little jumping board was fine. For some reason, my Sim couldn't figure out how to get into the pool, and they were just standing there waving their hands up in the air. Honestly, it was a scary like 20 minutes, half hour, but in the end, what I basically ended up doing is, you know, them little like square platforms that you can put down to, if you want to like have a roof trim or something, and you want there to be kind of like a surface, like an extra room without actually having it to have all the walls, do you know what I mean, like a platform. Basically, I ended up putting a platform onto the floor where the pool is, and it fixed it. It looks the exact same as you would have seen it, but honestly, it was such a scary time because I felt just very scared. My heart was going pitter-patter, I'll tell you that one. But anyway, moving on from that, as you can see, I have now moved on into the inside of this house. You would have seen I've already done at the gym and then the pool house like I was talking about, and now you can see that I've moved on and I've started doing the kitchen. How beautiful are these floor tiles? They're from the Courtyard Oasis kit. They come in some really colourful colours. I'm talking like greens and reds and blues, I'm pretty sure, but they come in this really beautiful white swatch, and honestly I don't know why I don't use them more often. I found them when I went around and did the wallpapering and flooring, which I always do off camera. I haven't spoken about it in a while, but honestly it takes me so long to figure out what wallpapering and flooring to go for in my builds, even though half the time I just use a plain wallpaper, but still there is a lot of debate. Also the flooring, because I feel like I might get a few questions on the flooring. The flooring that I've used for the majority of the house, apart from in the kitchen and in the bathroom, is a vampire's wooden flooring, but I've kind of made it so it looks like it goes zigzag. I use a dark colour of it, and it is so beautiful. But now, as you can see in the kitchen, I decided to go for the vampires counters, and then there is also a double oven stove situation. And when I came round playtesting at this build, another problem that I ran into was with the kitchen. Honestly, this game, it tests me sometimes. I'm not gonna lie to you, it really does test me. There is 2 spare counters in the kitchen, or it ended up having 2 spare counters in the kitchen, you know, nothing with clutter on or whatever. I was getting my sim to prepare some food. Every single time I wanted my sim to make a garden salad, they would go all the way upstairs to the bathroom sink and prepare it on a counter that had a sink on it, so it wasn't even an empty counter. I just don't understand sometimes the way that this game the way that this game functions and the way that this game works. It will make sense, fair enough, if there wasn't any empty counter spaces, but there was literally 2 empty counters that had absolutely nothing on them. And the thing is, sometimes I'll be like, oh okay, maybe they just prefer that counter in the bathroom, maybe it's of like a higher quality or it's more expensive. It's the exact same ones, and the sink that they was preparing the garden salad on is the exact same sink that's in the kitchen. So the question is, in my mind, why did they go all the way upstairs? Why didn't they just try and prepare it on the sink in the... Honestly, it baffles my mind sometimes, this game. But I ended up, basically, you know, with the counters in the middle, like the little island counter, I ended up changing that because currently there is the end pieces trying to make a square. I ended up changing it just to be for, you know, like normal size counters. And honestly, you couldn't write it. It wasn't until I changed the counters to be full size ones that my sim finally realised that in the first place there was already 2 counters and decided to go for the ones that was empty in the first place. Honestly, you couldn't write it with this game sometimes. But anyway, it was also in the kitchen. There ends up being like a little breakfast bar area. I was thinking of somewhere where your Sims can go and eat their like oatmeal in the morning, maybe like their Cheerios or their Lucky Charms. And then, as you would have seen, I just quickly did the dining room. So there's kind of like the breakfast room where your Sims can have like their quick meals and, you know, like their lunches. And there is also quite a grand dining room as well. And the lighting in that room is just so beautiful. But I feel like every single time I use the industrial loft kit windows, the lighting is just so good. I don't know what it is about them, but they're my favourite windows in the game. I use them so much, and they just make the screenshots look really pretty. But now you can see that I've moved on. I've started furnishing the first lounge room. Now I'm only saying first because there is technically 2 lounge rooms, but then like 4 or 5 different seating rooms. So this is the room that I imagine to be like the family room, you know, of a Friday or a Saturday night. Your Sims are going to be in here on the sofa with a blanket, maybe eating some popcorn or something. Kind of like a more casual lounge room, if you want to put it that way. You know, it's the only one out of all the different seating areas that has a TV. There is TVs in like the teenagers' bedrooms and also in the gym as well, but in terms of seating area with, you know, like big sofas, that is the only room. But now you can see I've now moved on into the next room. I don't even know what you class this as. Basically, you know how the dad of this household is a professional athlete, you know, or a retired professional athlete. Of course, over their course of their career, they would have earned so many different medals and awards and won so many different things. And I wanted to showcase that in this house somewhere. And so I basically decided to make this room into a showcase of all their different awards. So you can see on the fireplace, I have used a bunch of different trophies. I'm pretty sure all the ones that I've used that are from base game are from the athletic career branch, so it kind of makes sense. But then I also used 2 from Get Famous. One of them is a fan meet and greet, and then if I'm being honest, I can't remember what the other one was, but I wanted to include like awards and trophies that made sense to the career that the sim is in, because there's no point in me having like a trophy for your Sims for winning an award for being an author when the Sims are a retired model and also a basketball player. So I tried to make a conscious decision of trying to only pick out trophies that was in like the bodybuilder branch or in the professional athlete branch. And then there is also some frame checks above the fireplace as well. And then in that room there ends up being a little 2-tile bar. The one that I use is from the Vampires game pack, some seating area, and then also some kind of like fancy china cabinets behind it. But now you can see I've moved on into the next room, which is more of the kind of like the formal living room, formal-ish anyway. I don't know, this one doesn't have a TV, it's just kind of like a seating area. This house was so big, I didn't know what to do with the amount of rooms that there was, and normally with the house of this size, I would make one of the rooms into like a playroom for the children or the toddlers of the household. But as the storyline and kind of like as a household didn't include any of them from in like the child or toddler age range, it basically make no sense, and so I just basically made it so there's loads of different seating areas. So if your Sims want to sit down, they've got plenty of options in this house. But in this room I decided to go for the Paranormal Stuff pack sofas, and then I paired them with the same armchairs that I used in that little kind of like trophy room. The ones I've used are from Discover University. And then in this room, just off the side of it, you can kind of just see on the left hand side, that's what ends up being the kind of like greenhouse plant room, which by the way I want to mention, I've already come into my game and I've already placed down loads of different plants and like things that have been growing, because I wanted you to have the option for if you wanted to download this house and then jump straight into gameplay without having to get your Sims to go around and plant some things. There's already some things in there, but if you want to get your Sims to move into this house and they've already got plants and trees and whatnot like growing, I know it sometimes does take a while. Feel free to delete my ones and replace them with your ones. I just wanted there to be an option, if you, just in case you did just want to get straight into gardening gameplay, if you want to put it that way. But as you can see on the left hand side of that little seating room, I basically just made another just kind of like sitting room. It's got a chess table in it. Again, didn't really know what to do with it, but now you can see I've moved on it into this kind of like little greenhouse room. So in here I use the industrial loft kit archway and then the mosquito windows, but the way that the kind of like the shape of the room was, there wasn't enough tile for me to have all of the mosquito windows alongside each other seamlessly. And so you can see in the middle of one section I've got two windows that are from the Snowy Escape expansion pack, and they basically look the exact same. If you wanted to, you could 100% replace the roof in this room because there's nothing above it, it's just like a roof. You can make it into a full-on greenhouse and make it have a glass roof. But maybe it's just me, but I personally don't like or maybe it's just the way I build them, but I don't like the greenhouses in the game. They look really weird. Some of the custom content greenhouses that I've seen are absolutely beautiful, and I wish that we had some of the items that I've seen custom content of in game, because I don't know, I never really liked the look of greenhouses that much, and so I decided to make it so it's like a normal roof, but there's windows going all around the side. Like I said, if you want to, feel free to change it. I feel like I say this all the time, and it's probably because I do say this all the time, but if you want to download any of my houses and change them to suit the way that you play the game, honestly, please do. I will not be offended. You can download them and change the rooms around, you can change the furnishings. I would say you could download it unfurnished and then, furnish it yourself, but one thing with that is that a lot of the landscaping that I use for when I landscape my builds, for some reason the game classes them as furniture items, which I don't know how that works out. But if you ever want to download my houses and you want to change them, please feel free to. I'm not going to be offended. You can do whatever you want with them once you download them off the gallery. But anyway, as you can see, I've now moved on to the basement level of this house. Now, when I went in and originally did the floor plan, you wouldn't have seen me do the floor plan for the basement, because if I'm being honest, at that point I didn't know there was going to be a basement. So the overhead of the basement floor plan will be at the end of the video. If you're not aware, every single video at the end I always do overhead screenshots of how the floor plan is laid out, just in case you wanted to get an idea of how I've done it, as well as some roofing overhead floor plans in case you want to see how I did the roofing. But then also for this house there's going to be the basement overview, so if you're wondering how the floor plan for it kind of panned out, it'll be at the end of the video. But in here, as you can see, I've started off by furnishing the laundry room. Now, as one of the Sims in this household is going to be an ex-professional athlete, I still imagine that they're quite active still. They still go to the gym, they still play basketball, and there's two teenage boys in this house as well. There's going to be a lot of laundry accumulating, and so in the laundry room I ended up putting 2 washing machines and 2 tumble dryers for your Sims to do a ton of different laundry. I say your Sims, it's going to be butlers, because if I'm being honest, this household I don't imagine would do anything for themselves. Like, I don't even imagine that they're going to cook for themselves. I imagine that upstairs they're going to be hiring professional chefs to come round for every single meal, every single evening. I haven't seen it in a while, but there used to be an option for your Sims to hire a chef to come round, and there used to be an option for your Sims to hire a vegetarian chef. I feel like it was introduced with, the Dine Out game pack. We have them chef stations. I feel like it was introduced with the chef stations, and then at one point they must have updated it, so now that interaction is only possible from clicking on them big bulky ones. The ones I'm talking about, they kind of like go around a corner, which is really annoying because, it's great if you have a restaurant, but if you're trying to have a big family kitchen and you want to hire a chef, I don't want to have a clunky oven, so I might actually look for a mod for that because I do actually really want to play with this household. But anyway, as you can see, I've now moved on and I've started furnishing the gentleman's club. I feel really cringy saying that, but hopefully you know what I mean by when I say gentleman's club. It's basically somewhere for the dad of this household to come hang out with old like team players, you know, their old basketball friends that used to be on the same team as them. They probably meet up once a week, they come down here, they play card games, they throw darts, they probably hire a bartender. It's just somewhere for the dad of this household to have a club hangout. I basically wanted there to be an area in this house somewhere for each member to have their own club hangout spot. And I feel like whenever I do club hangouts in houses that I do, like family homes, they're more so always for the teenager. But I feel like I leave the parents out sometimes, and so I really wanted to make sure, as I feel like the majority of this whole entire estate is the dad's money, I wanted to make sure that the dad had their own little room to go and hang out with their mates, play some card games, you know, drink a few different cocktails and whatever. But anyway, as you can see, I've now moved on into the next room, which is the butler's quarter. I didn't really know how to decorate this room because I wasn't sure if it was going to be an NPC or if it's going to be like a household member. I just tried to decorate it quite generic. Over in the other corner, you would have seen I placed down like a little desk area, and I wanted there to be like family photos on the wall, but the ones that I used are from Vampires, the Vampires game pack, and I wasn't sure if they fitted in or not. In the end, I ended up keeping it, but I wanted it to feel like they were members of the butler's family, you know. They've got photos of them on the wall. There's also some little postcards on the wall as well, so maybe before they kind of like settled down and became this household's butler, they did a bit of travelling, because I do imagine that they've been this butler for a while. Like, you know, I imagine the butler helped raise the children, you know, raise them from toddlers to children to teenagers. I imagine they've been in the family for a really long time, but I still also imagine that they probably got their own family elsewhere. And I tried to show that in their bedroom. But as well, you would have seen I did do the vault downstairs as well. In the basement, the vault has kind of got 2 layers of security. So you go through the vault door, and then you go through a room which then has another vault door, and then you're in the vault. Now, I've added 50,000 simoleons into the vault, and so when you go into it in gameplay, there's going to be like golden bars on the shelves, and there's going to be jewellery stands with like necklaces on, and I'm pretty sure there's like an individual stand that has a literal diamond on it. Honestly, they look so cool together. But anyway, as you can see, I've now moved on to the upstairs portion of this house, and I've started off by furnishing the bathroom. I am so obsessed with this bathroom. I love the way it came together so much. You can see that I've tried to make the bathtub feel a little bit more grand, and so I put it onto a platform. Now, I am very much aware that the way that I've currently got the platform is a bit hickledy-pickledy. Basically, I wanted there to be quite a luxury kind of like sink area, and so I used the same counter that I used downstairs in the kitchen but in this bathroom, and then I used the tool cabinets, but then the cabinet was kind of going into the platform, so quickly I did it so the platform then went to a weird like, it looks really weird, but don't worry, when I came in and I started playtesting this house and I took the screenshots, I realised how hickledy-pickledy the platform looked, and it looked really uneven and odd. So I have now since fixed it, and now it's a little bit of a smaller platform, but it's still a luxury platform. You know, your Sims can sit in the bath, and the thing is as well, with this lot that I haven't even mentioned, the back garden looks onto this really beautiful area of water, and it's got like this big fountain coming out of the water. It's so pretty. But one thing I will say is trying to take a picture of the front of this house was so difficult. I don't know what it was, but the lighting in the back garden, absolutely beautiful. But when you come around trying to take a picture of the lighting in the front garden, like the front of the house, I really struggled with it. But anyway, as you can see, I've now moved on. I've started furnishing one of the bedrooms for the family members, like one of the celebrities. So we've already done the butler's bedroom, but this is going to be the first teenager's bedroom, and this is going to be for the teenager that's more into, you know, like gaming sports rather than playing the sports itself. I just think that's such a funny storyline. You know, you've got this dad who is a professional athlete, or was a professional athlete, really big in the basketball world, and you'd rather play basketball on your computer. I just think that's such a funny storyline to go along with. But in here, I tried to show the contrast between both of the brothers, because we got this brother that's really into gaming, really into, you know, like playing video games with their friends, getting a pizza takeaway. You can see that in front of the little TV area, I found a pizza box and I put it onto the floor. I also cluttered it up with some like gaming controllers and like spray cans. I tried to make this room feel very cluttered and very much like a typical messy gaming teenager's bedroom is basically what I'm trying to say. But when you see the contrast from this bedroom into the other teenager's bedroom, I feel like you can see which sim prefers gaming and which sim prefers to be outside, because I gave this sim the biggest bedroom because I imagine they spend so much time in it playing video games, playing, you know, just doing all sorts on their computer. And I really tried to replicate a messy room as well, which is quite easy to do if you've got the Eco Lifestyle expansion pack, because you know that pizza box that I put on the floor, that is from the live edit menu. It doesn't spoil, it will stay there. Your Sims can, you know, like, your Sims can still walk around it. It's just a really nice piece of clutter decoration if you want to do like a messy teenager's bedroom. But anyway, as you can see, I've now moved on into the next teenager's bedroom, which is the teenage girl's bedroom. So in here, I decided to go for the get together wardrobe in the corner. I really struggled, if I'm being honest with you, with decorating this bedroom, because I really wanted this sim to be very popular, has a really big group of friends. You know MTV Cribs? Do you ever used to watch MTV Cribs, like the old version of it? You used to watch them, and there used to be these teenagers that used to have like 20 friends all around their house. I imagine this teenager to be exactly like that. They're so popular, they probably know every single person in Newcrest, in Willow Creek, in San Moschino. I just imagine them to have so many friends, and I imagine that their bedroom is kind of like their club hangout spot as such. I also really imagine that this sim is into fashion and makeup, and you know, they're probably in a high maintenance sim, which is I think it's a lifestyle and possibly a personality trait as well, which we got from the latest Spa Day refresh. I imagine that this sim, her and her mum, they're often popping down to, if you've watched it before, my country club and spa when I built Country Club and Spa in the world of Oasis Springs. I imagine that they're going to be regulars over there. I imagine that they're just very high maintenance. They love fashion. They love all of that kind of thing. But for some reason, I really struggled when it came around to decorating their bedroom. In here, it ends up having like a little vanity corner. There was also like a little computer corner. There is also like an art easel, a bookcase. There's a mirror, and for some reason, I don't know what it was, but I really struggled with that room. But now, as you can see, I've now moved on into the next bedroom, which is the last teenager's bedroom in this house. So in here, I struggled on what bed to go for. Originally, I was going to use one from the Dream Home Decorator game pack, but I didn't like how low down the headboard is. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, the headboard on that bed that I originally pulled out, for some reason it's really low, and it just really annoys me. And so I decided to replace it with this one that we got from City Living, but it's the good version of the bed. Because if you're not aware, with City Living we have some like kind of manky furniture, some like used furniture that's probably been found in like a dustbin or something. There is two versions of this bed. There's kind of like the old messy one, and there's like a normal version. This is the normal version. But in here, as you can see, there's like a little TV unit opposite the bed. There isn't a gaming station in here, and I tried to do that on purpose because I didn't imagine that this sim would be the one to play the games. I imagine they're consistently outside. They're consistently in the basketball court. I imagine that they're also having like club hangouts and club gatherings in the gym as well. I imagine that a lot of the teenagers in the world of Willow Creek and Newcrest, because I personally imagine Newcrest and Willow Creek to basically be next door to one another. So I imagine that all the teenagers in that world often come here, and you know, they hang out in the gym. It's probably like the hot spot basically for teenagers in these two worlds. But in here you can see the contrast in the difference of the amount of clutter that is in this room compared to their teenage brother's bedroom. In the other teenager's bedroom, as you would have seen, there was pizza boxes, there was pile of clothes, there was graffiti cans, there's like megaphones on the floor. Whereas in that bedroom, I tried to keep the clutter to a bit of a minimum. I still wanted it to feel realistic, and I still wanted it to feel like a lived-in bedroom, but I didn't want there to be as many kind of like gaming related items. They've still got a desk, but it's nowhere near as fancy as what their brother's desk is. But anyway, as you can see, I've now moved on into the next bedroom, which I was really stuck on what to do with this bedroom. It ends up just being a guest bedroom, because I was originally thinking, and you might have noticed, there isn't a home office in this house, which honestly, I surprised myself with that one, because even in normal, typical suburban family homes, there always ends up being a home office in my houses. But in this house, just the way the floor plan laid out, the rooms that I had decided to make into sitting rooms would have been way too big to have to be an home office. And so I was debating to making I was debating to making. I was debating to make that little guest bedroom into a home office, but again, I just felt like it was too big. I feel like it just didn't fit in, and I decided to make it into a guest bedroom because, you know, there's a lot of Sims in and out of this house consistently. All the teenagers' friends come round, and they're gonna need somewhere to have their sleepovers, and so I just decided to make it into just like a standard guest bedroom. Of course, if you want to download it, you can change it to be like a child's bedroom or a toddler's bedroom. You can do whatever you want with it. But now, as you can see, I've now moved on into the last room, which is the parents' bedroom. It's in here. I knew straight away that I wanted to have a 4-poster bed. There's something about having like a big bed like this that kind of shows authority. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like this is very apparent that that room is going to be for the parents of the household, and so I use the 4-poster bed, which is from Cottage Living. I really wanted there to be a walk-in wardrobe because, you know, the mum is an ex-model. I felt like that would make a lot of sense, but just again, the way the floor plan panned out, it wouldn't have made sense to have the walk-in wardrobe on the wall that I wanted it to be in, because basically the way that you can do a walk-in wardrobe with the Dream Home Decorator things, the little sectional pieces, you put them onto the wall, but when you go into half wall up, half wall down mode, it disappears, and it just really annoys me. And I wanted there to actually, if I was going to go full out and make a walk-in wardrobe, I wanted you to be able to see it in gameplay, and so I just decided to use a wardrobe that we got from the Get Together expansion pack. But now, as you can see, I'm just going around this house and then furnishing the hallway, and that is basically it. So anyway guys, I'm going to end this voiceover here. So as always, you can download this build via the gallery. My original ID is Jessicapie, or just search for the hashtag Jessicapie or just the hashtag Jessicapie. As always, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, if you do like my content, then please do subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in my next Sims 4 speedboarding video. Bye guys.